All right, let's get right into it. We've got some Eastern Conference action to break down, and, well, some of these games were pretty wild.
Yeah, a lot of upsets this week, huh?
Definitely some surprises and some standout performances that have got everyone buzzing. We're talking Cavaliers, Mavericks, Thunder, Knicks, Pelicans, even the Wizards making some noise.
Yeah, it's been a pretty interesting week, gotta say. The young guys are really making a statement this year.
I'm with you on that. We've got a lot to unpack, so let's dive in. Starting with the Cavs taking on the Mavs. Now, the Mavs were without Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving for this one. Tough break for them.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt.
And the Cavs, well, they really took advantage of that absence.
Yeah, 134 to 122.
134 to 122. You said it. A dominant win for Cleveland. Evan Mobley, I mean, he was unbelievable. 34 points, 10 rebounds.
Yeah, those are all-star numbers right there.
Absolutely. And Darius Garland dishing out assists like it was nothing. 9 in total.
Garland's vision on the court, it's just remarkable. Really elevates everyone around him. Those two together, dangerous combo.
So, given this performance, even with the Mavs missing their stars, does this make the Cavs a contender in your book?
They're definitely in the conversation. Got to see if they can keep this momentum going, though. Consistency is key.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to a game that, well, this one had a bit more drama, I'd say. The Knicks and the Thunder. Thought the Knicks had this one.
Oh, yeah, me too. They started out strong, but the Thunder, man, they just wouldn't quit.
Talk about resilience. That fourth quarter, it was like a whole different team came out for OKC. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 33 points, just unstoppable.
Unbelievable performance. And Aaron Wiggins off the bench, too, hit some clutch shots down the stretch. Really impressed with his composure.
Yeah, he stepped up big time. But got to give credit to the Thunder's defense, too. That second half, they just locked the Knicks down.
Absolutely. Second half, completely different game. They started trapping the Knicks ball handlers, forcing turnovers. Really smart adjustments.
So for the Knicks, this has got to be a tough one to swallow. They haven't been the most consistent this season, have they?
Right. They've got the talent, but they need to find a way to put it all together, especially in those crucial moments.
Yeah.
That's what separates the contenders from, well, everyone else.
Absolutely. All right, let's head down south for a minute to the ATO. Hawks versus the Wizards, but honestly, this one was the CJ McCollum show.
50 points. Unbelievable.
And 10 threes on top of that. Incredible performance. Jordan Poole tried to keep the Wizards in it with 26, but there was no stopping McCollum that night.
No way. He was on fire. But, kind of funny, the Wizards had just beat the Bulls the game before, right? Poole had 30 in that one, and Tyus Jones really stepped up, too.
Right. So it's like, which Wizards team is going to show up? Talk about unpredictable.
Yeah, bit of a roller coaster with him, isn't it?
Yeah.
Got the talent, that's for sure. Just got to find some consistency.
Agreed. Speaking of offensive firepower, let's move on to the Grizzlies and the Kings.
Right.
138 to 133, Kings with the win. Back and forth the entire game, this one.
Yeah, that was a shootout for sure. Monk for the Kings. He was dropping buckets. 31 points for him, hitting some clutch shots.
Yep, and Jalen Wells for the Grizzlies had himself a career night, too. 30 points for the young fella.
I think we're really seeing the future of the league with these guys. The young talent coming up is something else.
Absolutely. Now, on to a game that was a bit more defensive, let's say. The Magic took down the Raptors 106 to 97.
Yeah, this one was a grind. Really impressed with the Magic's defense. They held the Raptors under 100. That's saying something.
Yeah, it was a team effort, but Tristan da Silva stood out for sure. 25 points, active on the boards, played solid D.
He's been a bright spot for them this season, no doubt. Cole Anthony, too, brought that energy off the bench. 11 points and 8 assists.
Can't forget about Goga Bitadze either. Double-double for him. 13 points, 10 rebounds. They were firing on all cylinders.
They really were. Raptors, on the other hand, struggling to find their rhythm offensively. Poles had a decent game, 25 points, but not enough overall.
And last but not least, we've got the Pistons taking on the Hornets. Now, Pistons were without Jaden Ivey for this one, but they still pulled out the win. 98 to 94. Close one.
They really had to grind it out. Tobias Harris stepped up, 24 points, real leader out there. But I got to give it to Jalen Duren. Dude was a monster on the board.
He had like 16 rebounds, and he was all over the court, man, making things happen.
Really stepped up in Ivy's absence. Pistons showed a lot of heart in that win.
Absolutely. So overall, I mean, wow. We've got young stars breaking out, veterans showing their grit, and a whole lot of excitement. I'm curious, from your perspective, what's the biggest takeaway from all these games? What are we seeing unfold in the East right now?
I mean, it's hard to ignore the impact of these young guys coming into the league, right?
Yeah.
They're changing the game, fearless, athletic, and they're making an impact immediately.
Yeah, it's like a whole new era of basketball is upon us.
Absolutely. And the veterans, they're having to adapt. It's exciting. It's making for some really compelling basketball. It really is a new era, isn't it? And I think for me, one of the most fascinating things is just how these individual performances we're seeing, they're really shaping the whole Eastern Conference landscape.
Totally agree. I mean, take Evan Mobley, right? 34 points for the Cavs. Or McCollum going off for 50 with the Pelicans. It's like these guys can single-handedly shift the momentum of a team, the whole conversation around them.
For sure. And it's not just the big names either. We're seeing guys like Jalen Wells with the Grizzlies, Aaron Wiggins with the Thunder.
Yeah.
They're stepping up, making these huge plays when it matters most.
It's awesome to see. You've got this mix of like veteran experience and then these young guys just bursting onto the scene with so much raw talent and like this fearlessness.
Makes every game so unpredictable. Any team can catch fire on any given night.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get. And speaking of surprises, I mean, how about that Thunder comeback against the Knicks? They were down, what, double digits in the third?
Yeah, I thought the Knicks had that one in the bag, honestly.
Me too. But the Thunder, they just never gave up. Scrappy team, they play hard every possession.
They do, and you got to give credit to their leader, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The guy's the real deal.
Oh, yeah, he is. And he's got a solid supporting cast, too. Aaron Wiggins, like we said, coming up clutch. It's not a one-man show over there.
Exactly. They've got a lot of guys who can contribute. Makes them tough to game plan against.
Makes me wonder, though, what's going on with the Knicks. They seem to crumble under pressure, Those late-game collapses, they've got to be frustrating.
You'd think with the talent they have, they'd be able to close out those games.
Right. It's like they haven't quite figured out how to win consistently.
They got to find that consistency, that mental toughness.
Totally. All right, let's talk about a team that's been exceeding expectations. The Orlando Magic. That win over the Raptors, a statement.
Mm-hmm.
And their defense was unbelievable.
Locked them down. Holding the Raptors under 100 points. You don't see that very often.
It was like a defensive clinic out there. And it wasn't just one guy either. De Silva, Anthony, Batadze, they all played a part.
Yeah. True team effort. You can tell they're buying into whatever their coach is preaching.
It's working. I'm starting to think this Magic team, they might be more than just a feel-good story,
They could be a problem for some teams in the playoffs, that's for sure, if they keep this up.
Now let's talk about another team that had to fight for a win. The Detroit Pistons, without Jaden Ivey, mind you, but they managed to take down the Hornets. Tough game.
Gutsy performance. Tobias Harris, he really stepped up as a leader, put the team on his back, but got to give a shout out to Jalen Duren.
Oh, yeah, that dude was a beast on the boards. 16 rebounds, man.
And he's just a sophomore. The kid's got a bright future.
He does. They need those other young guards, Cunningham and Hayes, to step up too, though, if they really want to make some noise.
Yeah, for sure. If those guys reach their potential, watch out.
Okay, gotta talk about the Cavs. Dominating win over the Mavs, even without Doncic and Irving. Sent a message, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Statement win, for sure. Mobley, unbelievable. And Garland just orchestrating everything.
They look like a real contender, don't they?
They do. They do. Lots of season left, but they're definitely in the mix.
All right, one more game to touch on before we move on. Kings and the Grizzlies. Back and forth, high scoring, came down to the wire. Malik Monk was on fire for the Kings.
Oh, yeah, 31 points. Couldn't miss. And on the other side, you had Jalen Wells with a breakout game for Memphis. Career-high 30 points for him.
Yeah, crazy game. It seems like every night a new young star is emerging.
It's a golden age of young talent, I'm telling you.
I'm loving it. Okay, we've talked about a lot of individual games, but let's zoom out for a second. What are the bigger trends you're seeing in the East? What are the storylines we should be paying attention to?
Well, the one that's hard to ignore is the rise of these young stars. It's changing the whole landscape of the conference.
We talked about Mobley, Gilgeous-Alexander, Wells, Duren. It's like a whole new wave of talent is washing over the league.
Exactly. And it's not just talent, it's their mentality. They're fearless, they're hungry, and they're ready to take over.
And it's forcing the veterans to adapt, right? They can't just rely on the old ways anymore.
Right. It's a whole new era of basketball, and honestly, it's pretty exciting to watch.
I agree. Now let's get down to brass tacks. Predictions for the upcoming games. Who's hot, who's not?
Okay, so based on what we've seen, I'm thinking the Thunder, they're going to keep rolling against the Knicks. Their defense has been stifling.
Makes sense. What about the Magic and the Raptors? Think the Magic can pull off another upset?
Honestly, yeah, I think they have a shot. The Raptors are struggling offensively, and the Magic, well, they're playing with a lot of confidence right now.
Okay, interesting. The Pistons have a tough one coming up against the Timberwolves. Think they can win without Ivy?
It'll be tough, no doubt. Towns is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But They have a chance. If Harris has another big game and Duran controls the boards, they could steal it.
And last one, Wizards taking on the Pelicans. Think the Wizards can bounce back from that loss to McCollum?
Tough one. The Pelicans are playing really well right now, and McCollum, well, you saw what he can do. Unless the Wizards can find a way to slow him down, it's going to be a long night for them.
All right, so we've got some exciting matchups coming up. The East is wide open this year. It's anyone's game.
Exactly. Can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
Me neither. Now let's dive a little deeper into some of these individual performances, really break down what made them so special. We've talked about Mobley's 34-point game, but there were some other standout performances that deserve a closer look.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, we got to talk about C.J. McCollum, right? 50 points against the Wizards.
Yeah.
That was something else. Just unstoppable.
He was in the zone, like you could even guard him.
It was a reminder that he's not just, like, a sidekick to Zion.
Yeah.
The guy's a bona fide star. He can take over a game.
Totally. And then you had Jalen Wells for the Grizzlies. Career high 30 points against the Kings.
That kid's got potential, man. If he can become a consistent scoring threat, it's really going to open things up for the Grizzlies.
Absolutely. All right, now let's flip the script and talk defense for a minute. We've been praising all these offensive performances, but there were some guys who really stood out on the defensive end.
Love that you're bringing that up. Defense wins championships, they say. And there's one guy in particular who comes to mind. Jalen Duran for the Pistons. So dudes wall in the paint.
Seriously. 16 rebounds in that Hornets game. But it wasn't just the boards. He was altering shots, blocking shots, intimidating anyone who dared to drive to the basket.
He's a game changer defensively. Gives his teammates so much confidence knowing they've got him protecting the rim.
Couldn't agree more. All right, another young guy I want to highlight, Tristan da Silva for the Magic. Rookie of the Year candidate, in my opinion.
I wouldn't argue with you there. He's been so impressive.
He can score from anywhere. He's got good court vision, and he's already playing solid defense, the whole package.
He's a perfect fit for the Magic system, too.
It's awesome to see these young guys making such a big impact, isn't it?
It really is. The future of the league is bright.
All right, so we've got the young guys making noise, but the vets aren't going down without a fight. Tobias Harris has been carrying the Pistons, even with Ivy out.
Yeah, veteran leadership right there. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the Thunder, he's playing at an all-star level.
Seriously, that guy's unstoppable.
He can score in so many ways it's tough to guard him. And he's becoming a real floor general, too.
I'm loving watching this new generation of players take over. It's like a new chapter in NBA history is being written right before our eyes. But let's not forget, there are some brilliant minds behind these teams, the coaches.
Ah, the coaches. The unsung heroes.
Exactly. They don't always get the credit they deserve, but they're the ones drawing up the plays, making adjustments, motivating their players.
And we've got some great coaches in the East. J.B. Bickerstaff with the Cavs, Mark Daigneault in OKC, Jamal Mosley in Orlando.
They're all doing amazing things with their teams.
Absolutely. They deserve a lot of credit.
Okay, let's look ahead a bit. Got some big matchups coming up.
Oh, yeah, some juicy ones for sure. I'm excited for the Cavs versus the Bucks. That's going to be a good one. Young Guns versus the champ.
Clash of styles, too, right? Cavs, all about speed and versatility. Bucks, well, they're just a powerhouse.
It's going to be a battle, that's for sure. And then you've got the Heat taking on the Sixers. Rematch of last year's Eastern Conference semifinals.
Ooh, yeah, that's going to be a good one. Always love a little playoff rematch.
The Heat, they're all about grit and defense. And the Sixers, well, they've got Embiid and Harden.
Two of the best offensive players in the league. If they can stay healthy, the Sixers are scary.
For sure. Lots of exciting matchups to look forward to in the East.
This is what makes the NBA so great, isn't it? The storylines, the rivalries, the unpredictable nature of it all.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, so we've talked a lot about the games, the players, the coaches, but now I want to bring something else into the conversation, something that often gets overlooked, but it's constantly influencing the game. The rule changes.
Ah, yes. The ever-evolving rule book.
Exactly. And it has a huge impact on the way the game is played, you know? Like, take the emphasis on freedom of movement.
Yeah.
It's made it harder for defenses to be super physical.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's led to more scoring, a faster pace of play, more emphasis on skill and finesse.
It's a guards league now more than ever. And those rule changes, they've definitely played a part in that shift.
Absolutely. Defenders can't just bully their way through screens anymore. They got to be smarter, more disciplined.
And the crackdown on traveling violations, no more of those gather steps that players used to get away with.
Got to be more precise with your footwork now.
For sure. And then there's the coaches challenge. That's added a whole new layer of strategy.
High risk, high reward, that one.
Ugh.
Got to pick your spots carefully.
You do. Okay, back to the big picture. The playoff race in the East.
Oh, yeah. It's heating up.
Yeah.
So many teams in the mix. It's going to be a battle to the very end.
Who do you think are the favorites right now?
Well, the Celtics and the Bucks, they're definitely up there.
Yeah.
But the Sixers, the Heat, the Hawks, even the Cavs, they all have a shot.
And we can't forget about those surprise teams, the Magic and the Thunder.
They can shake things up, for sure. This is going to be a wild ride.
It is. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We've analyzed the games, talked about standout performances, explored the trends, even talked about the rule changes. But at the end of the day, it's up to you, the listeners, to decide what it all means.
Yeah, we're just here to provide the info, the insights, the analysis. You guys got to form your own opinions, make your own predictions.
It stood out to you? What surprised you? We want to hear your thoughts.
Hit us up in the comments on social media. Let's keep this conversation going.
This is just a snapshot in time, folks. The NBA season is a marathon, not a sprint.
Lots of twists and turns still to come.
So stay tuned. We'll be back with another deep dive soon. It really is amazing to see how these rule changes, they might seem small, but they have such a big impact on how the game is played.
Oh, yeah, they totally do. You know, it's like the NBA is always trying to find that balance, right, between offense and defense, skill and physicality.
Absolutely. And I think, we're seeing that play out in real time with how these teams are adapting, the players who are thriving.
For sure. Like, for example, you mentioned the freedom of movement emphasis. That's been huge. It's made it a lot tougher for defenses to just, muscle their way through possessions.
Yeah, it's not just about being the biggest, strongest guy out there anymore. You got to be smart, you got to be quick, you got to be able to anticipate.
Right, you got to be able to move your feet, stay in front of your guy, make those split-second decisions.
It's made the game more exciting to watch, too, in my opinion. More flow, more scoring, more highlight reel plays.
Oh, absolutely. And it's put a premium on those skilled ball handlers, the guys who can create their own shot, break down defenses off the dribble.
And on the flip side, it's made it harder for those big, bruising centers who used to just camp out in the paint.
Right. The game's evolving, man. It's all about versatility, being able to do a little bit of everything.
Okay, so we've talked about the rule changes, but let's get back to the main event here. The playoff picture in the East.
Ah, yes, the race to the postseason. It's going to be a good one this year.
It is. So many teams in contention. It feels like any given night, anyone can beat anyone.
It's true. The East is wide open right now.
So who do you see emerging from the pack? Who are your picks to make a deep playoff run?
Well, you got to start with the Celtics and the Bucks, right? They're both looking really strong.
Yeah, they're the favorites for sure. But don't sleep on the Sixers, the Heat, the Hawks, even the Cavs. They're all dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And don't forget about those underdogs, the Magic and the Thunder.
They could definitely make some noise.
I think so, too. This is why we love the NBA, right?
Mm-hmm.
The storylines, the upsets, the unexpected twists and turns.
That's the best. All right, so we've talked about a lot today. Analyzed games, broken down player performances, looked at the big picture trends, even talked about the impact of rule changes and coaching decisions. But at the end of the day, we're just two guys with opinions.
That's right. It's up to you, the listeners, to decide what it all means, to form your own conclusions.
So tell us what you think. What stood out to you? What surprised you? What are your predictions for the rest of the season?
Hit us up in the comments and social media. We want to hear from you.
This is a conversation,
Yeah.
and we want you to be a part of it.
Because this is what it's all about, right? Sharing our love for the game, debating the hottest topics, and just, enjoying the ride.
Absolutely. The NBA season is a marathon, not a sprint. There's so much more to come.
We're just getting started, folks.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time for another breakdown of all the action. Keep it locked right here.
And until then, keep hooping.
That's a wrap.